Hello friends, my name is Shivam from DevOps Schools and I will help you to enable your learning process in various technologies of DevOps, artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data and many more. This is our initiative to help you by sharing multiple tutorials and videos. And if you want any specific tutorials or any particular topic, then please do comment in the below comment section and I will help you with it. Also, please subscribe to our premium services on YouTube, which will give you access to more content and videos to enhance your knowledge about all these topics. Also, if you want me to help you with regards to the online trainings and classroom sessions by our qualified trainers, then please do write me at contact@devopsschool.com. Thank you.
Like if you see, it is sending now to resource owner if the resource owner is granting the authorization. So the resource owner now approving. When you just authorize it, we have written some redirect link. You remember 8081, but we are not worried about what is the link. We just have to get this code. This is the authorization code for you. So then let me just come back to my post. So first, sorry, postman, where I'll take a post request. I have to take a post request and I have to get the authentication token. So which is localhost 8089, sorry, 8909 and OAuth authorize. If you just send the OAuth authorize, you will be not getting any request because you have to configure all other details. That is, you have to configure the headers. What is the headers you want to configure it? The first header, you have to configure the content type. What is the content type which it should be accepted? Which is application of X URL www URL form encoded. So this is the content type. And then we have authorization, but the authorization type is a basic. So I just given here the basic, and after that it was a previous code. Now what is the authorization code we got it? That you have to copy it here. That is the authorization code, we just send it. Then in the body, we have to go with the X form URL encoded and what is the key which you want to give it. So what is the grant type which we have taken? So with this grant type here, what is the grant type which we have selected? We have selected as a authorization code. This is the authorization code. Then what is the code which you are getting here? So the code is whatever you have copied. That code we have given. Then what is the redirect URI? So that redirect URI, which is http colon localhost 8081 login. So all this I have configured, and then in the authorization, we just have to take a basic authorization, which is the basic authorization. Then for this particular client, I whatever the username and password which I want to give it. So the password is 123456. That's what I've configured. After all these things, I will just send a request. Whenever I send a request, you can see it is forbidden. Okay, is it any problem? What happened? Basic. Okay. Oh, sorry. It's not mine. It's a client application. So whatever the client app which I've sent it, the client app and 123456. Okay, what happened? Hmm. One second. Let me just send a request again. Maybe 2 minutes are over. Authorize it. This is the code which I'm getting. Headers, which is a new code, and then the let's add some other details. Uh, content type and the authorization. Yes, after that body, and here also the code should be changed. No, what happened? Are we sending client app only? Yeah, CLINT client app, code and read profile info. Everything is correct. Client app and the password. Basic authentication. We don't have any parameters. Then in the header, we have a content type, which is, and then authorization. And then in the body, we have code. Okay, grant type is authorization spelling correct? Yeah, authorization code and whatever the code which we got it under redirect URL. Yeah, everything is correct only. Grant type and redirect URL. Authorization is basic.
We already sent an URL to authorize, right?
But that authorization we have to get the refresh token and token access, no? Which the token is not getting. 8909, which what? Oh, sorry, my URL is, I want to get the token. Yeah, sorry. Yes, now you can see 200. Okay, so when you just send your token, authorization token, so now like just remember this diagram. Where is this diagram? So we just given the authorization grant to authorization server. So this authorization server is given the access token. This is what the access token, and this access token will be expired only in 119 second. So that is the expired, and here refresh token. And the token type is bearer. Let me just copy this and I will keep it here. This is the access token which I'm getting. So after this, the access code which you want to access it. What is the access token which we got it? So this access token you can copy it, and I'm taking just here get. And what is my UI, which is API slash users slash me. This is my controller link. Then if I go for a authorization, we have to mention here it is a authentication to, and then what is the access token which you want to get it. So what is the access token you have got it now, so that you have to send it, and just now send a request. You are able to see we got a 200 OK, 200 OK status we are getting here. Okay, so this what the authorization or authentication will be working with respect to what to. So the status which is giving you here is 200. So what we have did it here. First we sent a request from the client to the resource owner. This is giving the authorization grant. This is the authorization grant which we got it. From the authorization grant, we just sent a request again to the authorization server to get this access token. And if you just see here with the same access token, if I'm just sending a one more request, maybe after some time, after 2 minutes, it will be not valid. So that is, we have to get the new access token, because the validity for this access token, it is only for a 2 minutes. So if you want to refresh it and to be again taken care, so instead of generating again access token, what we can do it, we can take here the refresh token. This refresh token will be again revalidate your successful or the message which you are sending here. So this authorization server will be sending to your resource server. Now what is the resource server which we have written? So then it will give the protected server, protected resource. If you just see here, after that, I'm just showing that status is 200. Okay, you are able to get it. It is asking again for a username and password. So then here, if you do login with your credential, it is able to allow with your data. Okay, so that is, if you just go for a preview, you can see here preview, and now you access with your username and password, Shweta 23456, and then just do the sign in. So here now it will be giving your data which is respect to your application which you want to get it. So then again you are getting a status 200. So that is which we will be working with respect to the entire authentication process. So here we have configured the authorization server also. So in this, we have configured the authorization server also. We have written a code for a client, which is like AM, OpenAM, and we have written the authorization server, where you can take any authorization server which is already available. Like for suppose, if I just, are you clear with this? Whatever we have discussed till now? Do you have any doubt with any part?
Yeah. You sent request to get the token and to authorize both to the OAuth server, right?
Yes. First,
In
I
the
send to
diagram,
the resource owner. No, from the client, I send to the resource owner.
that
This
you are
resource
first.
owner,
Okay.
yes, this we will be sharing. So what is this request here? Oh, yeah. So this is which I'm sending from my client. So if the client is sending a request to this, some client is sending. Whenever I
Okay.
approved it, I will get one access to authorized token. Okay. So this is a granted type. This granted type, this access grant from the resource owner, we have to send it to the client. Again, the client will send that token and the request to the authorization server to get the access token.
Okay.
Okay, so then,
Here, in our
yeah,
example, resource owner and authorization server, everything is actually a same server, right? Here.
no, we have configured different. No, this is our main application, which is our client security config. We have configured it. Then we have created here the resource server, and we configured here authorization server. The authorization server
But
is giving
everything is
all
running
your
as a same.
access token and all.
Everything is
Huh,
running
we
as a
made it
same
as a one
framework
application.
application. Usually, it will be
Yes,
different
yes,
application, isn't it?
yes. You
Usually,
will
the
be
OAuth
writing
also
as
will
a,
be
yes,
for resource owner also we'll be having a different server, and for
yes,
OAuth also we'll be having a different server. Usually,
yes,
isn't it? Okay.
yes, yes. So just to make it simple to explain it, I made it as a one project. That's all. So you can make it as a different project so that this will be running under one, and this will be running, your resource server will be one, and your client application will be one.
Okay.
Okay, so where here, now this authorization server we are granting and giving the access token. Then this, by using that access token, we are getting the protected resource. Then you are able to access your application with all this much security. But why this many levels of security? Because our REST API, which we are exposing to some other client. So we are taking care of different levels of a security with the OAuth 2.
Okay. I did not understand that refresh token usage.
Okay. See, okay. See, I am working on access token. Okay, so access token will have a validity. It will be always a minimal validity. Maybe for 5 minutes or 10 minutes it will be not valid. Again, I have to generate the another access token. Instead of that, we can store a refresh token in our application or wherever you want it. So that refresh token validity will be always more. Like it may be like 1 hour or 3 hours or 4 hours. So instead of access token, if I use access token, refresh token, only my validity will be more.
But then if you're using
It
that
will
again,
not
that
send
will
an, yeah, but it is not again the new request which is sending to our application, right? So we no need to do the entire steps again.
In that case, access token can only like be valid for more hours, right?
No,
Why do we need to have like two?
refresh token only goes to the authentication or authorization server, but access token go to the resource server. If you are
okay.
taking here, so you have a two, right? So that is where your if you have a two types of tokens here, which is refresh token. This refresh token will be only or goes back to the authorization server, where your access token will be go to your resource server. So your resource should be validating again, so that your code will be taking more. So that is, it will be to the resource server. It refresh access token will give the access to your API. So it will not tell your user, are you the user or not? The refresh token will say that because it is going for the authorization server. It will validate your authorization. So the basically the refresh token only goes back to authorization, but access token will be go to your resource server. So just getting the access token does not mean users are logged in. User might not even there for anymore, but which actually intended to use the refresh token. Refreshing the access will give the access to API in behalf of some user. Are you clear? See, I'm one client. Okay, I just logged into your application with my I just did all my process and I got my access token and refresh token. Okay, so if I am not exist now, so I'm not there, but I want to access my resource. I want to access your resource. So instead of again to do the again all the steps, so I can go with the refresh token. It will only refresh already the established access token to use the API.
Okay.
Different access token will be generated in that during that time.
Yes, so that is whenever you go, like you will be get a cell phone can be cloned, right? You can clone the cell phones. So having access token expires means the client is forced to authenticate to the authenticate server. During re-authentication, the authorization can check other the characteristic like adaptive access management, anything. But refresh token, it allows for a client only re-authentication. It will only reauthorize it. It does not again check for your perform adaptive access management and all. Where periodically if you are using some website, okay, so periodically you're using some website, so in that case I go with the refresh token. If only one time I want to access it, I go with the access system like access token. Like as I said, I work for some banking applications in my banking site, so I have to give my user always the new credential. So that is access token will be again entire process, so it's highly used at a present most social websites. So that is, you don't need to re-authenticate your users. So whenever you want to do the re-authentication, we'll go with the access token. But if don't need to do it, so that in the banking system, So periodically I want to authenticate, means periodically I want to re-authenticate after an hour or some time, so that I can go with a refresh token here itself.
But if somebody gets hold of that refresh token, how do we authenticate
But
that?
they should know your username and password also, no? If they have only refresh token, they can't do anything because they should get your username and password also.
Okay.
Where you can revoke your refresh token, but you can't revoke your access token. Basically, we will be having some reduced attack surfaces. Okay, so that is to for the attacking surfaces to reduce or to support with that, we will go with the refresh keys or the refresh tokens.
Okay.
Like just still to get better idea, like you have some building which have with the 80 doors or some 70 doors. All doors you have to open with the same key. Okay, if the key is changes for every 30 minutes, at the end of the 30 minutes I have to give the old key to the key maker and get a new key, correct? But within 30 minutes I can't open the all 80 doors or 100 doors which is there for the building. I can't complete my job to be done.
Yeah.
So in that case we go with the refresh token.
Okay.
So in that case, if some hacker is there, if I'm the hacker and get your key, then at the end of a 30 minutes, I will courier that to the key maker and get a new key. So I'll be able to continuously open all doors regardless of key changing. Correct? Like what is the question which you asked?
I didn't get this last part, what you told again.
Okay, see, if I'm the hacker, I'll get
Hmm.
your key. Okay.
Okay.
At the end of 30 minutes, like I'll courier that to the key maker and get a new key. Because keymaker does not know am I authenticated user or not.
Yeah.
So I'll be able to continuously open all the doors regardless of a key changing itself. If
Yeah.
there is a refresh token is present, what will happen? So all doors are open with the same key, but the key change for every 30 minutes. To get a new key, I can't pass the old access token. I must pass the refresh token.
Okay.
Okay, so in the same scenario, if I'm the hacker and get your key, I can use it for 30 minutes. But at the end of a 30 minutes, if I'm sending to the key maker has no values because the key maker does not have any value because it will be just bad a refresh token. Will be able to extend my hack. It they can like I can't extend your hacking. I would hack your courier key maker also, which is the refresh tokens.
Okay.
Okay, so where either here the token which I've taken it as a the it's normal token. So where a server would verify an access token based on the credentials and signing and what is the payload which you are sending. For that you can go with the JWT. Like how the tokens can be configured, we have JWT. Which is basically access token leaking is bad, but once it is expires it no longer we can't use it. So but refresh token leaking is worse scenario, but it is less like to be okay, it cannot be. So where if you want to go with the token, so it is better to go with the JWT tokens. So why? Because here let me just go to the debugger. So the JWT is an industry standard again. So if you just go here, the debugger, so it is a combination of your header, payload, and what is the verify signature. It's still loading. You can see your token will be this much very big. So the first part will be the header part. What is the algorithm which you are sending? HS256 and the type is JWT. So if you just see, you have a different algorithms to take in care. Whenever you just change a algorithm, you just observe only this first part does keep on changing here, right? So that is the header part which we are sending here, where you have a payload. The second part, which is in the purple color, which is of a payload. So what is the payload or the request object which you are sending in the request body? So this is the request body. If instead of this John, if I put some name, you can see the purple one is changing. It's a combination of your header, payload, and the signature. So that is which will be what is your bit of secret and the payload and the base URL encoding format. By combination of all these things, you will be getting here. So this way you will be able to go with the JWT. So this JWT, you can have it for what are all the algorithms which is supporting for all your languages. You can just check it out here. So if you just go for a Java, so you can see Java which here, which is Maven, you can go with Java JWT of 3.3.0. So in this 3.3.0, what are all the JWTs will be supporting? All this algorithm, but PS algorithms will be not supporting, and ES is still in the stage, which is only not for the production usage. So like you will be able to get it, what is the version and what is the library which you want to go with. So here they have given the Maven library. If you go with Maven, you will be able to get the Cradle library also. So that tokens you can configure with the JWT. And again, if you go with the authentication as we are discussing, so that is, let me just go for so with any social websites, like if you just go to some of the website, so like SlideShare or LinkedIn, it will ask, do you want to log in with a Google, or you want to log in with Facebook, or you want to log in with GitHub, or some predefined authorization servers are available. So that is, you can see here with the Spring documentation, how can we configure with the Facebook and GitHub. So that is here, first we have to add the Spring starter security, and it is only Spring security of client. We are making only client, we are not writing a server, because already you can go to the developers.facebook.com. You have to host your application here. You have to host your application here with your products. So where then it will be taking. So that is, you will need to configure your application client ID and client secret. So as I was just mentioning, your grant types. So we just did it the grant type with the authorization code. Either we can go with the client credentials. So in that case, so you have to open your developer.facebook.com or Google Developer. So in that, if you register your application, so you will be getting here the client ID and the client secret. That client ID and client secret you have to configure in your Spring YAML file or in the Spring property file. So that is Spring security authentication client registration Facebook, which is what is the client ID of yours and what is the client secret that we can be providing here. So once you have configured that, So that is, you can see, you will get this application, which is if you click on a Facebook.
To get our channel membership, click onto the join button, select the 399 plan and grow your skills immensely.
Then through Facebook, you have to do the login. So it will ask Spring Security 5 demo, you want to continue. So there, your authorization part will be taken care of your Facebook itself. So you just have to write your client part or to authorized client, which the client authorized, and get the token value. Based on that access token, we are able to log into our application, and we can access of any of your REST application with a REST template. So this way we can go with the Facebook. The same way, if you just go with the GitHub or Google, you can just configure it. So you have to configure what are all the client ID and client secret which you want to get it for your application. So that is the only step which you have to do it. So client ID and client secret, which you have to configure it here in your Spring application. So either in the Facebook, or we have developer google.com. I can go to Google Console. Mm, let us say App Engine or Cloud Google. In console developers google.com. So you can just go to here dashboard, or you have a OAuth consent screen. So you can just go to OAuth consent screen. And like I have some application which is Spring Boot demo or two, and in that, for that we will be having some, like I've already used for my other project. So that's why currently uh, unable to provide the quota information at this time. So that is my OAuth quota is completed. So that's why I could not access it. So that is when you go with the OAuth consent screen. So it will ask you to create the application, and you just create it and give OK. So you will be able to get your client ID and the client secret. So that client ID and client secret you have to configure here with the registration of Google, which is with client ID and client secret. So once you have configured with that, so then your almost other code will be with your security code only. So how you have written the OAuth to a client, so the same way here you will be writing here. So that is social config. We are doing some configuration bin, so which is written in the Facebook. So OAuth 2 of authorized client service. So you are getting here the access token. So if authentication is assignable, so then it should be give the registration ID. And if the registration ID is equals to Facebook, then we have to get the OAuth token. So we will be get the, what is the Facebook username you will be having, that name you will be getting. So based on that, you will get the access token, and it will return the new Facebook object. So that way you will be configuring with respect to Facebook or Google, or with the GitHub, or any way of social logging in which you want to access it. So that's where the OAuth2 security will be configured. I took as our own server, and so that to understand the entire process, I have just taken all processes done by us. But if already some authorization servers are available, so then this code we no need to take in care. Authorization servers, client ID and client secret should be configured here with your application.properties, and then can we go with that. So are you clear with this?
Yes, Shruti. One thing, the username and password, I mean, it's not good practice to store in plaintext form, especially in application or properties. So how is it done in production environment?
Like in the security config where we have written, we just taken here with in-memory authentication. But instead of in-memory authentication, if you want to configure with JDBC, you can go with authentication with JDBC authentication. So with the JDBC authentication, what is the object you want to get it? Author it is by username query. So you have to send your query. So which is like select start from whatever a table you have. So the table name where your username is. It will check for your username and password. So this code you have to write it. Like instead of going with the in-memory authentication, you have to go with the JDBC authentication. So here only will be writing a query to get it. So it will return your, it will only access it. What are the users and username and password which is there in your database in the production usage.
Okay. And for a single application, I can also use S2.
Yes.
Okay.
But H2 will be only for your development, no, not for production.
Oh, S2 is not for production.
Because it will be in memory database, right? So once you stop your application and restart it, it will be data will be gone. So again, new data should be taken, right? So H2 will always use it for development.
Okay.
So that's what how the security will be configured with our code. So that is either we can go with the OpenID, OpenAM, ForgeRock, or you can go with Facebook or social login, or as like us, we can create our own authentication server and we can create our resource server. All the code can be done with our coding. So this way, the Spring security can be taken care. So are you clear with the Spring security?
Yes.
Okay. So after this, we have a Spring batch. So that is whenever you want to go with the batch processing or to work with the batch processing kind of a data, we have a Spring uh, batch libraries. So where the Spring batch dependencies should be added. So where in the Spring batch, it is a framework to do the batch processing. So basically it will be having the job repository. So it will be having the job repository and which contains the job launcher. From the job launcher, you will launch the job. For one job, you will have the multiple steps. For each step, you will have a three processor to run it inside here, which is a item reader, item processor, and item writer. Let me just take here batch Spring batch diagram. So that is from the job repository, you will be creating a job repository. In the job repository, you will be having a job launcher. So that is to launch your jobs. So from the job launcher, you will be getting here the job. So in one job, so for one step, you will have like multiple steps will be taken care. So like you have one CSV file, you want to read a file, or you have some, like in your case you may have some x-rays or you have some images where you want to do the process. So where in this Spring Batch we will be having a tasklet step, so that is to clean up the resources, or when the job is completed we have something called tasklets. So where in that we'll have a three, which is item reader, item processor, and item writer. Like I have one CSV file. From the CSV file I have to write it to the MySQL database, or I have some XML file I have to write to MongoDB, or I want to convert a XML file to CSV file, or MySQL database to XML, or multi-resource items will be there, I want to read it. So I want to work with the huge data, where to process at the parallelly we'll go with here the job launchers. So where once the item is read, then it will do item processor, then it will be do the item writing. So where with this we will be having something called schedulers also. That is, it will run the batch jobs with the scheduler frameworks. That is, we have something called quad scheduler and task scheduler. So where task scheduler will schedule a job to run for every 5 seconds. So quad scheduler to schedule a batch up to run with every 10 seconds. So you can configure which particular job you want to do it. Where in this we have a Spring Batch with a partitioner, that is if you have a multi threads to process a range of a data. You have some 1 crore of a data where you want to process it, we go with a batch partitioner, which will be taken multiple threads and do the processing to process a range of data. Then we have a Spring Batch listeners which intercept the step execution of a batch job. So these are all the different concepts which are available with respect to the Spring Batch. So like when you go for the any conversion, so that is if you have a XML or XML to conversions, you have to go with the Jaxby library, because Jaxby will provide the marshalling and unmarshalling, which is converting your object into convert your XML into Java object or Java object into XML. So if you have a simple XML file, and that XML you want to, or CSV file you want to read it to some or store it into some database. So what do you have to do it? So first you have to read the data from the CSV, and then you have to store it into your MySQL database or any SQL database. So to configure, first we have to configure here the job repositories. So that is, we have to configure here Spring Batch, which is job repository should be configured. That is a bean which is available. From the job repository, we will be launching here job launcher. So the job launcher will be launch your job to provide it here. The job repository will be injected in that. So where the job reporting, so that is either you can configure it the tasklets and the steps all in the XML format, or you can go with the Java format itself. So that is if you are going with some XML, so like you will be creating here the batch. So whatever the XML and S you want to give for the batch, you have to create the job. So inside the batch of job, how many steps you want to further? So that is batch of step. In this step, if you want to clean it once the job is done, we will be go with a batch of tasklet. We'll be using the batch of tasklets. So that configuration you have to do it. So then we will be writing our code, like whatever the data you want to read it, you will create it as a some Pojo or model class. Then in the main method, so you can write a job launcher to get your reporting of a job, and then you have to do the job execution with the job parameter which you want to read it. So from the CSV file or whatever your source, from there it will be reading, and it will be given to your whatever the destination which you are provided here. So to work on that, we are going with respect to a Spring Batch. So basically the Spring Batch where you want to process the multiple data or the huge data to be taken care, we go with respect to the Spring Batch here. So let me just take it here. So where many application within your enterprise domain, the bulk processing you want to perform, so in the critical environment, so then you go with a Spring Batch. So they have given some use cases where automated or complex processing of large volume of information most effectively processed without user interactions, and where periodic application of complex business rules processed repetitively across very large data set, then you can use it, and where you want to integrated integration of information which received from internal and external system, typically where you require a formatting, validation and processing in a transaction manner. So in that case we will go with a Spring Batch. So that is, it reads a large number of records from database or file or in the queue, where you are going with RabbitMQ or any messaging queues, or process the data in some fashion, or write back the data in the modified form. So these are all some business scenario which we are working on. So where the application and the batch code and the batch infrastructure will be available here. So these are all some general principle and the batch processing strategies. That is, we can go with the conversion applications or validation application or extract or update application, processing and updating the application, and output and format application. So for all this type of strategies, we go with the batch processing strategies here. So to work with this, so first we require the dependency, which is to take a job. So that is, you can see here, the input will be splitted into process, and it's done the partition process, then it's done the merge process. It's a kind of fork and join in the multi-threading. So it will fork your jobs. Once it is done, then it will do the join back all your process. So the same way, the batch processing also will be happen like your fork and join. So to work with this, so we will take some CSV file and we will store it into our database, or how we are going to do that, that we will see it in next session. So tomorrow we'll discuss about the Spring Batch, and then we discuss with Spring with RabbitMQ and containerization. I'll try to do all these three things tomorrow so that we can spend some time with the Spring Cloud. It's okay, not according to schedule, we have to close it on Thursday itself. So if you are okay, so we can have it on one more extra session also to discuss about the Spring Cloud.
Yep.
So any doubt for today's session?
No.
No.
No, nothing.
So if you don't have any doubts, so I can stop recording and I can wind up a session.
Okay.
Okay. That's fine.
Yeah. Actually, in other batches we used to do the code together, but as uh, you want to do code with me, or is this way is okay?
Code together in the sense they were also doing in their local, is it? If it was not
Yes, yes.
online or even in
If
online,
it's
can do
online,
it.
yeah, online itself, they were doing a code with me, so like they are doing in their systems.
Okay.
Please enroll our general membership for $399 plan to get access of all the parts.
Along with that, you can access our other tutorials such as Docker, Ansible, Jenkins, Terraform, Splunk, AWS, Azure, and various other DevOps related premium tutorials with our channel membership. If you would have any issues with our channel membership, you can drop an email to us at contact@devopsschool.com, or you can also unsubscribe from channel membership anytime if you don't want to continue or did not like the video. To get our channel membership, click onto the join button, select the $399 plan and grow your skills immensely. Please be kind enough to like it, and you can comment any of your doubts and queries. We will reply to them at the earliest. Thanks for watching.